beautiful place. Doesn't mean it's easy to photograph though. I'm working on that. But right now, it's Gavin Seim here, and I'm going to tell you the secret. I'm going to tell you the secret to becoming a great photographer in just a couple of minutes. Number one, take a decade. That's right, take a decade, take 10 years, and start refining the craft. Now, I think back to when I was 12, 15 years old, and I really started getting serious about photographics. And I said, I want to be a photographer. And this was a different time. This was before digital was mainstream. And when you said you wanted to be a photographer, that alone garnered respect. It was like saying, I'm going to become a lawyer or I'm going to become a doctor. People knew that it was a serious craft and that it took a lot of time. And digital came along and our mindset changed because we can make a lot of images and they're everywhere. And so now the image is seen as like a commodity, and it's totally changed the industry. And a lot of people have gone out of business because of it. And it's very hard now. In fact, it's harder to be a photographer professionally than ever before because there is so much competition. Now, maybe you don't want to go into the business. Maybe you just want to make great images that people appreciate and you want to do it for yourself, and that's fine, but take a decade. Maybe you do want to go into the business. And so now you have to think about marketing and you have to plan what you're going to sell and how to refine, how to narrow down what it is that you're going to offer and how you're going to be unique from everybody who's just click, 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 making tons of images. Take a decade. Take a decade to build towards whatever you're going to. I remember when I was starting out, and it wasn't that I never got good images. It wasn't that I'm saying never go out and do a portrait session. You have to learn, you have to practice, you have to refine. But I see so many people now, and they go out and they get a nice camera, they make a business card, and they say, hey, I'm a photographer now. It doesn't make you an artist. It doesn't make you a photographer to buy a piece of equipment. You're not Rembrandt because you buy a brush. And the second part of that, number two, is learn, study. Study the painters, study the history. Go deeper than just the latest photo book or blog. Go to the workshops, go sit at the feet of the masters and learn how they made the great images. See, we look at digital and we say, well, it's easy now and it's totally different. But the aesthetics of art, the principles haven't changed. And you can go all the way back to the painters and find those same principles. Making great images. Being a really great photographer is not easier now than it was 25 years ago, because it's harder, in fact. The bar is so much higher. There's so many images being made. If you want to stand out, you have to be focused and you have to find something really amazing. And so take your work further. Study and study and study. That doesn't necessarily mean go to photo school. I didn't, in the college type sense. It means go out, go to workshops, study, and maybe I would have saved a few years off that 10 had I gone to more workshops. And yet still, it's like when I got to that decade point, I started to see differently. I started to understand differently. Doesn't mean I didn't make good images before then. But plan on that decade and then go for it. Number three is understand science. Understand science. And this is so ignored in photographics today. We have all these cameras and they meter and they autofocus and they do everything for us. And well, I can just focus on the creativity. Understand science. Don't just go to the photo club and listen to that guy who always has the latest gear. He's like, well, this is what you need to do. What you need is this new software. This new camera, it does everything for you. Makes me a great artist. No, it doesn't. That's not the guy you want to study. You want to look to people who have mastery in craft. You want to study the science. Take those images, enter them into competitions. Put yourself up against masters. Learn the craft and take yourself further and further and further, but study the science of light, the zones, the tones, the ratios, how it flows and how it goes. Light is everywhere. It's all around us. Light's the medium that we're painting with. And we need to understand the camera is just a tool. It's just a chisel. The light is what we're really working with. And you need to understand those fundamentals. Barry Howell once said, I think I was on one of our podcasts, that art without science is artless. If we don't understand the science of what we're doing with photographics, and it doesn't matter if you're a painter or a photographer or you're a sculptor, if you don't understand the physics or the science or the way the light or your medium works, you're always going to be punching in the dark, and you don't want to be punching in the dark. So take that decade and plan on just spending it refining and refining. And then once you get to the end of that decade, take another decade. That's what I'm doing. Go and study and keep studying. Never assume you're above that studying, and go and study the science deeper and deeper, and then start combining that science with the artistry. You say, well, I'm an artist. I don't care about the science. You must care about the science. Know the science of your medium, because the science of light isn't so complicated in terms of how we make images. And once you start understanding it, everything changes, and then you apply that and your artistry gets, oh, so much better. And so, in brief, just in a couple minutes, that is how you become a great photographer. And so now, go out and become a great photographer. See what you can do with it. That's what I know. I'm Gavin Seim, and this is Photographic School.